This podcast, like every other podcast that I make, is supported by Patreon. You can submit topic suggestions or questions for us on Patreon, as well as make requests for any other actors that you might like to see that we could have as a guest in the future. Sorry, Ben, what did you just say?
I said I saw The Substance this week. Have you seen it?
No, go on.
No.
It's fucking great.
Really?
Yeah, I love it. I think that there are going to be a lot of people that hate it because it is like, it's full on.
It's a film?
It is a film with Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. And
Has it got Dennis Quaid in?
Dennis Quaid
Yeah.
is something in this film. They said, Dennis, you want to be weird? And he went, yep.
Wow.
Is it a horror?
It's a body horror.
Sick.
So it's pure body horror. Think The Thing.
Fly.
Well, I think The Thing, The Fly, yeah, The Fly. I thought you said why. I went,
why The Thing? What do you mean, bitch?
Yeah, it's wicked, and the premise is so simple. It's like a woman decides that she's being told that she's not beautiful enough, and it's Demi Moore, so she's absolutely beautiful enough, but the male gaze is essentially like, you are not beautiful enough, and so she begins to believe it, and this opportunity comes along where they basically say, you take this substance and you will get to create a better version of yourself, but the better version of yourself can exist for 7 days, and then you have to exist for 7 days, and then the other person has to exist for 7 days. And you have to, and that's the premise of the film. And I won't say any more other than that, but like, it's simple, it's brilliant, and it's watch it on a big screen because it's kind of overwhelming. The way they shoot it, like everything's like really close up, everything's fast. It's like a heart attack of a film for like 2 hours.
Like SpongeBob, when they do the fun little close-ups and you see SpongeBob's like pimply face every now and then.
I mean,
that.
That's intense.
I mean, that is actually kind of right. It's like SpongeBob, Ren and Stimpy. Think of like
SpongeBob did it first, so
okay.
Well, you just credit where credit's due is what I'm trying to say.
Pardon?
Credit's due. Wait, can you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear
you. I'm yeah.
We're just not listening.
I know. That's it.
Go ahead.
All I'm saying is like,
oh, hiya, Bill. I didn't see that.
Wow. Hey, buddy. No, the thing is, it's like there's always an audience for horror, right? That's what I found anyway. Like, I think like, especially if it is so kind of like, if it is like that kind of clever, not necessarily. I mean, like, there's always an audience for gorish kind of horror, but like, I mean, I saw the trailer for The Substance, and I was like, yeah, that's a film I want to watch. And I'm not really like, I don't really go to the cinema to watch horror films, right? But there is something about like that. There was something even about like Get Out, because Get Out I'd classify Get Out as a horror, where there is a sense of like, yeah, I mean, this is really, they're really cool concepts. But the question is though,
so everyone's been saying about VHS Beyond, which has been in theaters this week, a horror movie everyone wants to go see.
Are you plugging? Okay, yeah, sure.
It's a horror movie, and it's in theaters at Fantastic Fest and Beyond Fest next week. Everyone's saying it's it's one of those ones you just want to go see.
I'll be first in line.
I think people should go see VHS Beyond.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I really
thank you.
Back to Substance, I guess.
No, but I got a question though. My question for everyone. Like, and actually, yeah, I mean, you don't count, Alana, because you've done it now.
Sick.
But would you ever do a horror, or have you ever been inclined to do a horror, like interested of doing a horror as an actor?
So when you said everyone, you just meant Ben.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, great.
Well, because you've already done it.
Why did you say everyone?
Alana? No, okay, right. Alana, would you do another one? Would you do another one? Alana,
yes, thank you. Moving on.
Okay.
You do another one.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
I think people talk about people. That's what a weird thing. People, what a generic thing to say.
You're not wrong.
But there is a discussion. People do say stuff. There is a discussion at the moment that's going on about how there's this seeming risk and resurgence in horror. I think because what you have is you have these franchise films that are too expensive, and then you have like horror is small budget, intimate ideas explored to the extreme, and that's what horror is. Brilliant horror is that going, what if this thing? And it's very, very simple. We don't really kind of need to explain because they kind of very much exist in a genre. So we don't need the expansive world building. They're very simple explorations of extreme ideas. What would you do if this thing happened? What would you do if this person was running around and killing you? And we kind of like to see that. And it's really amazing that I think some of the best films of the past 10 years have been horror films, because they're just really, really simple in what they do. And the substance is that it goes, I'm going to be one thing, and we're going to explore that one thing. Everything else can kind of get fucked, and we're not going to try and explain the world outside. We're going to say, what would you do if you could have a better version of yourself for 7 days, but then you'd have to go back to your old self while seeing how much your better self may or may not be thriving. And what do you do with that body? And it's cool, you know.
I think horror can often also get lost when it tries to do too much. Like Hereditary is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think that movie is fucking amazing.
Oh, that shit scared me, man.
Yeah,
like,
same.
I remember seeing that in the cinema, thinking to myself, oh, well, I think I saw the trailer and I was like, this is a drama. This is obviously like, you know, I'm just going to go watch it because it's a drama. Not really kind of clocking into the fact that this is a horror made by a very good director who does horror. And that really stuck with me. That was a film that, like, again, just
I had trouble sleeping.
Artistic. Oh man,
Yeah.
like so much trouble sleeping. And it's not really, and it's not that like scary. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is just,
oh, naked old people.
Oh man, it's really, it just gets into your bones, man. It's really good.
The part of that movie, from the brother not wanting to take his sister to the party to the mother crying, like that, like 15-minute chunk is maybe the best short film I've ever seen in my life. But the thing about Hereditary, again, I love that movie. Have you seen it, Ben?
No.
You haven't seen Hereditary?
Oh,
no, I haven't.
Shit, man. Oh.
No, please.
We should do movie clubs where we do commentary. We could watch it together and make Ben watch it. That'd be sick.
That'd be so good.
I'm so down to do that. When you guys are in LA next, we'll figure out a way to do
that would be so good, because honestly, dude, oh man, it will blow your mind.
It's such a good movie. But my thing with it is
such a good film.
There are 2 movies in it, and I don't like one of them as much as the other. The one that's about family grief, brilliant. The one, oh my god, my microphone keeps changing levels and I don't know why it's doing it. The one that's about,
you sound great.
I hope it does on the fucking recording, because we ain't got a lot of time to edit this one. Which, by the way, everybody, welcome to the podcast. Hi, I'm Alana. That's Ben. That's Abu. Erica is not here for our second episode because she is too busy being an actor. Huge announcement for Erica this week. She's the ghost of Yote, which is the cool
bloody massive, by the way.
Insane.
So cool.
Like, so good.
Yeah, incredibly happy for her.
We were trying to organize this, and then it was like, okay, when can we do this? Also, congratulations on Ghost. Also, back to this.
That's sick, by the way. Anyway, that thing we have to do.
Yeah,
Hereditary is kind of 2 movies in one, where it's like I really like the family grief story. I'm not as into the cult.
The cult aspect of it all. Yeah, right. Okay.
One of them is a lot stronger than other, and I do think that horror can kind of get stuck in that sometimes, of like trying to tell too many stories at once. When you're right, you don't need the complexity. Have you seen Alien Romulus?
Yes.
I refuse to, because the amount of people that have told me it's basically like a Raised by Wolves but in an alien world has now put me off.
Interesting.
Because apparently the black android is like exactly like Father.
I could see that.
Does dad jokes,
his performance is
all that kind of stuff.
Really good. I really like it.
Apparently it's incredible.
Much better than the guy in Raised by Wolves.
Fuck you.
You did.
Yes. Alien Romulus.
But do talk about it though.
I enjoyed the film in that it was fast, and to me it felt like a reboot of Alien. Where,
nice.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think like it's a perfect movie, but they've had some lulls in that franchise. Since 2, I would say, and it was a fun one. I was glad that it was.
I do want to see it, man. I actually do want to see it. I was joking, by the way, but apparently,
you weren't joking. We're keeping it in. No, we're keeping it in.
You should keep it in. You should keep it in.
Ben,
do you want to put? I really liked it. Again, I understand why people might not. I think it's kind of exists on a scale, doesn't it, of like how much you enjoy it. I went, yeah, Alien needs to be simple. Alien needs to be people on a ship and being chased by an alien. And it needs to be people having aliens put in their throats and then coming out of their chests. That's what it is. And I feel like as soon as you the whole point, the whole brilliance of Alien, the first film, is that you don't see the alien for absolutely fucking ages.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's the story. That's almost like the rule of horror, is you don't see the monster. There's a brilliant film actually that
VHS
we'll
Beyond.
talk about VHS Beyond. I will be first in line every single time. Get your tickets now. Life. Have you seen Life?
No, haven't heard of it.
No.
Life is an alien film. It's kind of the alien film I wanted for ages, and it's got Ryan Reynolds in it, and it's got Jake Gyllenhaal in it, and they're on a space station. It's an alien film, but the alien looks a little bit different.
Hang on, maybe
and
I
it's
have seen it. Is that the one with where they put the hand through? There's a thing with a hand.
The one horror film where they put the hand through. Yeah,
You know,
God,
you'll know
wow.
what I mean. There's a bit with a hand.
Yeah,
The alien is kept inside of a glass box.
I mean,
that is
Scary
exactly
Movie?
Yes, I have seen that movie.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's Life. But like, I think when it comes to Romulus and Alien, I don't want to see the Alien for ages. And I think the Alien franchise got very big. It got, let's try and explain the engineers, and let's try and explain this and this and this. And you're going,
make a universe, yeah.
Yeah, don't care. It's like Chronicles of Riddick. Do you remember when like Pitch Black was this banging Vin Diesel film, and then they went, we're now going to make Judi Dench walk around like a ghost. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what people want to make this universe, when in fact sometimes films are just, as we said with The Substance, like, make it about one thing.
Yeah.
Make it you have an hour and a half. Yeah. Movies are now at 2.5 hours.
Yeah, who needs
because
why?
no one cares. It's like, make it 2 hours, make it the medium that it's designed for. We got TV for that. Like, tell a story in TV. But like film now, make it hour and 45, make it 2 hours, and make it a condensed experience that has a beginning, middle, and an end, as opposed to a bizarre third act that tells stories about that aren't related to
that
the
nobody
first
asked
idea.
for. Yeah, hard agree.
Yeah.
But as for
I think that's.
Go ahead.
No, go on, please. Go ahead.
I was going to say, as for the question that you asked, if you would do horror, I was going to throw the question back to you. Is there anything that like would or would not interest you about being in horror?
Yeah, for a long time I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to know how the sauce was made. Because again, like, I feel like with everything else that I've kind of done, be it either like sci-fi or fantasy or whatever, like, there is a feeling of like, oh, the magic's gone. But there's something about horror where, I don't know, like the way that, like some of the, be it either like, body horror, gore, like any of that stuff, there's something really cool about having that one world which is untouched, that I can kind of, I can enjoy fully, rather than necessarily watching something and being like, oh, they probably did that scene. That's probably their audition scene. Do you know what I mean? Like, I find myself now watching a lot of stuff, even like, elements of even sci-fi or whatever, where you're looking for like the CGI or looking for like the, and you can see the formula. Whereas with horror, I feel like that is something where it is just like, I'm just gonna.
I find that super
me.
interesting, because I feel like horror is one of the most tropey genres, and the audience knows the tropes so well. Like, horror fans usually come in with an understanding of what horror is. That I find, like, for any of the horror stuff that I've ever written, like just for fun, the beats of horror to me are so specific. I have them written down on my phone, literally, like what the horror beats are, which the first one is always, the world is not what it seems. So you show them something evil to start with a hook, and maybe this will break it for you if I do this, because now I look for it in horror all the time. It's always the world is not what it seems, introducing the players, introducing the monster. There's a chase. There's something where the protagonist fails and then realizes the actual cost of beating the monster is like usually learning something about themselves, and then the outcome, and then an ending is usually like, but it's not all done. It's like so formulaic and so tropey in a way that I think that makes it fun, because you're watching people play around in a really similar box a lot of the time. Obviously, there are movies that stand out and are like super different. But it's one of the few franchises that genres that I feel the opposite about, where fantasy, I'm always like, where the fuck's this gonna go? I don't know what's gonna happen. It could be anything.
Okay.
That said,
it's go on.
I was just gonna say, I think it's really interesting that you pick up on the scenes you imagine are people's audition scenes.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, and you can kind of see it. You can definitely
really
see
funny.
Like,
always. I do that with every film I ever watch.
Way.
Yeah. Like, it's really, I sit on the sofa with my fiance, and we talk about it all the time. We go, that was the audition scene, because
how do you know?
Because you just know what size you're giving out.
Wow.
You know what they had to do.
There is a sense of almost like, I don't know what it is. I can't explain it, but because I've been trying to deduce, like, how can you tell? And it's almost like, not necessarily that it's over prepared, but it's almost so clean. I don't know. There's just something about it. There's just something about it where you're like, yeah, that's the audition scene.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and it's like into kind of the general acting, wider acting take of things, like knowing how the sausage is made or the sauce is made or whatever it is that we're making. It's interesting how things do get ruined for you.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
Because
You
like I
take
haven't
things
had that
less,
with acting. I've had it with game dev. But my biggest thing
pretty
with
much
game
everything.
dev is definitely like, oh, I know that was really hard. Like it's given me a lot more sympathy for any game that comes out because I have like an understanding of how difficult certain things are to do or execute on that most people wouldn't. But I'm really curious, what are some acting
We
examples of?
we have a joke. We have a joke, which is if you've got your main character, let's say you've got Mark Wahlberg in a Netflix movie that clearly cost 150 million for some reason, and there's like a person who talks to him for one scene, and usually it's a British actor who's worked in theatre, and we will always go, good role, scenes with Mark, because you know that like because
That's so funny.
because when the audition is sent out, that is one scene, that is one day of filming with
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg, but the sell is good role, scenes with Mark.
That's
And then they'll
so
tell you exactly
funny.
how many lines they have. They'll go, there are 8 lines and this, because they try and sell you. And then they'll give you the backstory to this person that's in one scene, and they try and fluff it out to convince this
Yeah, and
person
it's like
who's
you will
way
forget
better than
them.
that role.
You'll
Yeah.
I love
And they'll
that.
be like,
That's so funny.
and it happens all the time with, because you do have to populate this world, but ultimately it's about the star of whatever movie that you're in, and you need to attract probably more talented actors than Mark Wahlberg. Are there? We don't know, but like
Could be.
they but they need to get these actors to do it, and in doing so, it's like it's always good role, scenes with whatever,
Love that.
and you'll see it more and more and more, and just watch it with a scene, and you'll see the actor acting really hard as well,
like really like delivering.
Because he's like scenes with Mark. I
Yeah,
gotta
Like,
give
this
him
is
my
like
A
this is
game.
this is my one thing. This is gonna be my show reel. This is my show reel. This is
my
Yeah.
show reel. Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Also, like you'll see an actor that you know really well, because we've got this really kind of thriving theatre scene in the UK, and also like a thriving TV and theatre scene. A lot of UK actors are really recognisable, and you'll see them in a massive budget movie, like Cruella or something, and they'll be in a scene in the background for like 20 seconds, and I'm like, they are in more scenes than that. Their role just got cut
Cut. Yeah, man. Yeah.
because they wouldn't have
The
accepted the
good old
role.
cut. Yeah.
And you can see, okay, so this role was bigger in the original cut, because there's no way they would have accepted a role that is like 20 seconds in the background.
The only thing that
Yeah.
gets me like that is like if you watch like a CSI or whatever, and there's one character that's in it for a second at the start and the camera's on it, and it's like a garbage man, but they don't say anything. That's the murderer. Every time. There's no way that they have a close up on the garbage man. They had to, especially if they have a line, because you're like, they had to pay that extra. There's no fucking way. You see him again. He did it. And they do it so often. Like that's a really, really common one.
A bit like we kind of maybe getting a little bit back to horror. Like horror for a lot of people is a starting point for actors, like to get into film and stuff. So you see a lot of actors get to kind of flex their acting chops through horror. In the UK, you also get to flex your acting chops through doing murder mysteries. Like we have so many.
Like
I
on
mean,
TV?
I've basically done all of them. Yeah.
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 I remember like my first, I think Sky job with Sky, like is for the Americans out there. It's how do you explain Sky? Sky is like it's like the HBO cable. Yeah, it's like a
but
cable.
it's own. Yeah.
It's
if
like,
we watch HBO in
it's
the
sort of
UK, it's on
ABC as
Sky.
well, though.
Yeah, it's got everything. It's got
Yeah.
like it's like our one, yeah, because we don't have as many. But anyway, but my first one was Agatha Raisin. Yeah, where I ended up like playing like the boyfriend to this to like I was like the red herring basically to the and like yeah, and I think then afterwards was another murder mystery that I did, which I think was called Spotless or something.
Has either of you
But
shown
yeah,
up on EastEnders? Isn't that a thing that just everybody fucking shows up on at some point?
so
No?
this is the thing. So like some like so what was it? There was two. I remember again starting out, kind of getting my chops out. It was between Agatha Raisin for Sky and what's our one here? Is it Holby City? That's the one the
Holby, yeah.
Holby, yeah. And it's like, and I got both of the, like, this was the first time ever that I got like both auditions, and I got offers for both. And I distinctly remember my agent being like, you have to do Agatha Raisin. You have to do Agatha Raisin. And it's mainly because if you do something like a Holby City or like an EastEnders, Like, look, and I really respect the actors who do this because
I
it's
think
incredibly
Rahul
hard.
may have done Holby City.
You've got to break it, man.
Yeah.
You've got to then
Mhm.
break that. You've got to break that chain, because there is something that you know, not even like with casting directors, but just people who see, as soon as you're on that kind of thing, they're like, oh, okay, you're that actor.
Oh,
Do you know what I
like
mean?
I know there's a thing in America where actors talk about you can get stuck in the Hallmark movie, like once you or
It's that
CW,
kind of
you
vibe.
just kind
It's
of
that
like
kind of
stuck there.
vibe. And like, don't get me wrong,
Interesting.
like these actors are incredibly talented. Like they do,
Yep.
like the fact that they have to literally learn these lines in stupid amount of time, like short time, right? And deliver something and be able to kind of tell the story and just go with it. Like, it's incredible. But there's just this stigma.
Hmm.
It's a stigma.
It
So
says more about the industry, really, because we are all freelancers and everyone has to pay a mortgage or rent or
yeah,
do whatever. And it's like, how do you want to pay your rent? Do you want, is it a money job? Is it for love? And we're in a wonderfully fortunate position where, look, all of us are talking and we have diverse careers that have kind of coalesced in the video game world, but like we have work outside that means that we can do that. But it's very easy for actors to be like, do you want to go into a soap for ages, in which you are in the wonderful position of, if you go into a soap, EastEnders, Coronation Street, Holby is kind of not really above, but it's kind of there. It's a soap per se. That's a lot of like guaranteed income.
yeah.
And it's comfortable. It's a comfortable
And
life.
also, and
You want
that's
to do
it.
it.
And yeah, and you know what's crazy as well? Like, I think if I did do Holby or like in EastEnders, I actually think my family would be more proud of me than, because again, it's like, this is the things that they
Because
watch.
you're
This is what
still
they
sort of hustling. Like, do you think that like
yeah.
does being a dad make a difference to you? And that like I always feel like I see some actors who'll like take specific jobs because they're like, I got a fucking kid to feed.
I think I'm in a very different position because I have, like, I've established myself quite nicely in
Yeah.
my career, where I do have a choice, and I'm also doing, you know, games as well and doing other stuff as well. What it does do, however, it does make me think about the roles. Like, for example, Raised by Wolves, we were filming in South Africa for like 8 months. It makes me like
How long
question
you'll be
that.
away.
Like, would I actually do that? Is that comfortable? How do I fix with my, you know, how do I do that with my family?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, truly, like, you know, I don't want to be away for like 8 months from my family. Like, that's
Yeah.
just stupid and ludicrous. But then I don't want to rip them for like a short period of time from the lives that they've already established here. Especially, can't do that to my daughter. Like, there's a stability that you need to kind of, you know,
Mhm.
put
Yeah.
there, right?
And it's such a unique
So
career in that like you could just be
this
taken
is
away
it.
for 6 months and you have to make a choice
Yeah.
of like, is that maybe that's the right show, but I can't do it because I have a kid. Like that's
Well, this
it's
is it. And like, and the thing is, it's like the industry kind of flips and changes in the sense that like you end up filming like in the most crazy locations. Like, I think the Alien TV show was all filmed in Thailand.
no way.
So
Wow.
like, you know, yeah, so it's like it's there is this feeling of like, yeah, okay, I could be filming in Thailand for X amount of, you know, months and time, which is quite far from the UK, right? So it's just like, how do I then take my family to then work in a space like, I mean, we were close to actually even filming Raised by Wolves in New Zealand. So like, it's just like, and like, that's the thing, it's like, it could be anywhere, it could be anywhere. Like, the good thing, at least, about with House of the Dragon, like, it's all filmed here in Watford, which is hilarious, because it's like in the studios, because you can literally, I'm coming to my bed every day and it's like there's no difference, right?
Must be
It's like
so
a 9 to
nice.
5. Oh, it's the best, right? Whereas, funnily enough, like, I think if I didn't, you know, if it wasn't for, you know, for Syra, there is this element of like, oh yeah, it's cool to just, you know, go to South Africa or go to Thailand or whatever. But actually, I kind of like being home now. Like, you know, I kind of, I love it, you know, because everything is here. Like, I don't have to move and I move up sticks and everything. So yeah, I think that's the only thing that is affecting my, you know, where I'm at in regards to like being, you know, having a family and being an actor, is the sense of like, okay, where are we actually filming?
Yeah.
Because
And
I
for
don't
how
want to
long?
be, and for
It's
how long?
huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like when you're in your 20s, you know, Boo and I worked on a TV show that we lived in Budapest for essentially,
Yeah, like 2 years. Like,
for 2 years. I mean,
Wow.
yeah.
it's by the time you'd arrived, I'd already been there for 1 year.
Yeah,
You know, like it was,
exactly. Yeah.
we were living in this beautiful country in the summer and going to these parties and having this kind of university lifestyle whilst we were filming at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, we were living in kind of serviced apartments. Everyone was just going out and just getting pissed and staying up till 6 a.m. on the
You get
weekend.
you get per DMs, which essentially allows you to like buy whatever you want, and they give you like more money than you need,
Yeah.
so you
Sounds
can
so
literally go
hard,
to
you
all these
guys.
bougie restaurants.
You
Must have
know,
been
and by
tough.
the end, you're turning up on a filming day, sometimes incredibly hungover, and you have to pretend that you're not. You know, that's the honest truth about the way that people live. But like now, where you film, like the idea of going to Thailand, I'm like, oh, do I have to?
Do you know
Mm.
what? It's a lot, man. Yeah, it's a lot. Like I think it really is, and that's the other side of things that people don't necessarily talk about with the industry as well, right? They always think it's like glitz and glam, when actually most of the time, even if you're in Thailand, you're gonna be cold and like in the, not knowing what's happening. Like it's rough. It's
I
tough,
had
man.
to explain to my dad the other day that actors don't stop. In that he didn't really understand the concept of the show must go on, and that he was
Yeah.
like, "Can't you take a day off?" And I was like, because I was talking about a friend who had to miss his brother's wedding because he was shooting a show, and he was like, "How
Oh
could you? What
man.
did you miss your brother's wedding?" And I was like, "Dad, they miss childbirth." I was
Yeah.
explaining another friend of mine, his dad died and he still had to film and wasn't allowed to go home. And if you watch that scene, it's awful, and I would never share it because I wouldn't want to give anyone else the perspective of that. But like when I watch it, you can fucking tell. Like he hit it clearly very well, but as someone who knows, it's really painful to watch because it's like that's the fucking day his dad died. And my dad was like, "What do you mean they don't get to go home?" And I was like, "The show must go on. You don't stop for shit. Like you have no say in what you
Yeah.
do with your body." I actually think it might have come up because we were talking about like the OnlyFans girls stuff. And there's how there's so much commentary about like you sell your body. I was like, every job you sell your body. Acting is selling
Yeah.
your body. Just because you're not naked some of the time, you're still selling your body. Like
Yeah.
they own everything you do and every second that you
Everything.
spend and exactly
Everything.
where you are. Like it's really difficult to explain to somebody who doesn't know a lot about acting that you can't attend your fucking kid being born. Like it's
and
wild.
like, and also the other element, right, is like if you're on a big show, like even not when you're not filming, they still own you, like because you've signed
Right.
on to like do X amount of seasons or whatever. You got to get approval if you want to do another show,
You can't just
like
get a
from
haircut.
them. Like it's just honestly, it is a thing.
So
You didn't meet him, but there was an actor on the first series of the show that we did together who doesn't come back for the second series.
can I watch this show? would
It's
like
called
to see it.
Jamestown.
Jamestown.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
look
it's called
that up.
Jamestown. And he doesn't come back for the second series, and he was optioned. So basically, you get a wonderful amount of money that you negotiate through your agent, and then they say, but we have first refusal on you, which basically means that like we have to agree. We get the first option if you get anything else, which is basically a red flag to any casting director. You're not available. You are not available to work if someone else has a first option on you, unless you are really famous and they really, really want you.
Yeah.
And we waited for ages. So we filmed until September. We then were going to wait until February to find out whether we go. So that's September to February where you are not working. You do not work. You cannot work,
Oh.
which is for some people, you're like, oh, that's wonderful. But like for an actor, if you want to progress your career, going, but other people are getting these great roles and I can't do anything. But it's okay because I've got this hit show, which hasn't come out yet, that's going to come out. And then we're going to film the second series and it's going to be fine. So this actor, who's a great actor, who actually dropped out of another show to be a part of this show, was a great role in that, and he was wonderful in the first series. The writer decided he didn't like the character. And so he then decided at the last minute, it got picked up, great, we're all good to go again. And then he got a call saying he won't be coming back. And they could do that. They could do that. He had said no to work, not only over that 6-month period, but the 6-month period going on. So he basically had a year of his career stunted, taken from him. Now, he went on to be very successful and he's fine. But that's why I feel okay about talking about it, because he went on to be in loads of shit. But it felt really like a betrayal. Like our celebration of coming back for a second series was stunted because his year, his life had been taken by first refusal.
Brutal.
And it's
that's nuts.
killer. Like the stuff you see about like people going for pilot season, old school. If you heard about like people just exist in the pilot season mill where they'll go out for pilot season, they'll get a pilot. one of 50 that are made. They then need to wait to see if it's going to be picked up, and then it's just not picked up. So they film one episode, and they constantly keep getting pilots again and again and again, but they're never picked up, and so they're never in any way. They have like 4 years where they don't do anything
Just a bunch of
because they keep
pilots.
getting.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of pilots that no one ever sees,
Yeah.
and you're going, "What have you done with your life?"
Yeah.
You've done one episode that you might have got 50 grand on, but then you can't live off that.
No.
You really
For-
can't.
And it's not much of a resume, I guess. Like when you're talking about the getting stuck in the like EastEnders thing where you'll be seen as, oh, you're an EastEnders. How much consideration do you have to give to that, to projects that you take on of like, is this going to get me stuck in some particular, are people going to see me a particular way? Like, is that a game that you think about whenever you're taking jobs?
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to. It's all part of the fantasy of who you are as an actor, as a character, and what you build. Like I think it has an effect. If I ended up doing like for example, like roles where I am playing like supporting characters or whatever and this kind of stuff, then there is this feeling or this idea of like, yeah, he's a good actor, but he's good at the the supporting character role. You want to then start curating, and that's essentially what what a good manager and agent do, right? They can curate to a degree your career to kind of be like, no, we want to see you as leading man, so these are the steps that we're going to take, and these are the roles that you should be going for, even though you might not necessarily get them. I think like I have to kind of check myself sometimes, because it's like, again, from Raised by Wolves, like the next job the next big job I did was House of the Dragon, right? But for a good year or two, I think it was like 2 years or a year, can't remember, but for a big gap I wasn't working, and there were tons of auditions, there was tons of stuff to go for, but but it's that whole thing as well. You've got to think like, oh, you're only as good as the last thing you did.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh God. And that's scary, because it's like, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, if you do very well, you can then get into a position where it just kind of does it by itself. You end up getting seen for, I mean, this is why as well, like even and I think it's similar with games. It's that whole thing of, you kind of as an actor really want to be going for, like, I feel anyway, for like these big lead roles, because ultimately then you're going to be seen as a lead actor. You're going to be seen as the character, the protagonist.
It's so
that
funny
kind of
that to
stuff.
be a lead actor, you have to have been a lead actor. Like, what a dumb.
Yeah, it's
like,
crazy, isn't it?
what is that
It's
pipeline?
it really is insane, but like that's kind of how it works.
And I guess like this is
yes,
a dumb question because obviously Hollywood proves it wrong, but I always wonder with games, especially now, this was less of a thing in the era where Nolan North was doing everything, that
yeah,
you can be seen as the lead too many times. That
you
you
can.
might like just you
yeah.
can only do it one time and then you're that guy. I wonder if like that, if I'm correct in perceiving that in it. I
I think
I feel like
the
you
video
could
game
pick.
landscape is different now. The video game landscape is different from what it was. I think this is quite a difficult conversation, I think, to talk about, really, because I think the complexities of being an actor in video games is very different from the complexities of being an actor in film and TV, because there's a hierarchy in film and TV. In video games, there kind of isn't when it comes
No.
to acting.
What do you mean by that?
And
What do you mean by hierarchy?
there's precedent. You said that you named one actor. Maybe there's 2 or 3 actors that you could probably talk about that have a precedent to sort of talk about how their careers have gone, who people know,
Troy
like
Baker,
people talk about
Laura
Troy
Bailey.
Baker. Like I said to someone, oh, I'm in Final Fantasy, and I played, I'm, a random person who has no interest in video games. And they were like, what do you do? I said, I work in video games at the moment, and I'm doing lots of really fun stuff. And they went, oh, like that guy, Troy Baker. And it was like
It's just one guy.
that one guy who was in, but look, who was in like lots of games and is continuing to be lots of games, because people don't see actors, they see characters.
Yeah.
And whereas in film you see actors because you see them, and I think this idea of actors being visible in video games is something new and is unregulated, and actually is up to like us right now to hustle and say, I would like to be recognized, I would like to be seen, I would also like to show a diversity of range, because it's not just about the voice anymore. I'm bored of their voice, and I'm like, you're not bored of Tom Cruise's voice.
No,
True.
Oh, yeah.
You have to
Ah,
work a
so
lot
true.
harder to be Ben Starr who plays Clive rather than to just exist in everybody's head as Clive. Like I feel like
Yeah.
Maggie, who plays Lady Dimitrescu in Resident Evil, did such a good job with that. In terms of she'd done a bunch of acting, she came from the theater world as well, and then she got this game and it fucking blew up on the internet, and she didn't even have social media when the internet started freaking out about Lady D. So she hired a team that was like, oh my God, we need to do something with this insane thing. And now people know who Maggie is. Like that so easily could have just like disappeared and never happened
Yeah.
again. But it's like
Mhm.
totally changed her career in such an awesome way, especially because she's so exceptional. But that is like to be a successful video game actor, you also have to be good at marketing and good at social media and have incredible interpersonal skills, which I feel like is not even necessarily required for other facets of the acting industry
No.
either. Like it's more jobs.
But you're inherently visible if you're in film and TV
Right.
because people look at you all the time. You have to. I spent the past year behind the screen a little bit. I spent the past year being like, I want people to know who I am. I want people to know who I am because I love this industry and I want to work again. And
Yeah.
I recognize that by people knowing who I am, not just how I sound, like how I look. There's a reason why I do
Yeah.
those stupid videos where you see my face because I want people to
Were you
know
dressed
what I
up as
look
Tifa?
like.
That still to this day
It's great content.
is
It's
it's genius.
all I
Pure
remember is
Oh,
Alana going for
incredible.
free.
Yeah.
That was your comment.
I think I've done that 3 times.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was
Yeah, but
incredible.
it was me having fun, but also me recognizing that I want someone to come up to me and say, "Hi, are you Ben? I've never played one of your games." That I
Right.
think is great, is going like, and I've had that a lot. I have people come up to me if I ever do conventions with I haven't even played the game yet. I haven't played it. And I want to be able to seen as a person who exists within the space of
Within
video
the world,
games.
within the industry,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't need to be
I
your favorite
definitely
actor,
think you've
but I'd
done
love to
that.
be.
I think you've
Yeah,
succeeded
but
there.
I'd like people to know me as a person and then recognize that me as an actor, and then also recognize that my work is of a quality that is good enough so that I can be an idiot. But
You know,
like,
yeah. And I think that's really interesting, man, because again, like I think for a very long time, we were always told that you need to have this enigma about you. You need to be this sort of whenever you appear on screen, it's like, oh yeah, it's cool. And then the next time, the only way that people can see you is like through like, I don't know, like E-Entertainment or like, some form of like fashion
Prestigious.
magazine or whatever. Yeah. Whereas actually I feel like we're getting now to a time where people are so accessible because of social media, because of what it is. I actually would rather have an idea of who this person is or who this artist is, rather than be like, oh, I have no idea who this actor is or whatever. I actually find it actually more interesting seeing the actor perform, knowing them to a degree, because I feel like there's I don't necessarily agree to this whole you have to be an enigma to be famous. I think it's so old
I
school.
actually think TikTok changed that. So if the Kardashians are good at anything, it's marketing. Like Kim Kardashian is really fucking good at marketing. I don't think anyone can take that away from her, regardless of all the shit that you can give that family for many things. But if you watch the way that they interact with different platforms, that will give you an idea of success on different platforms. The way that Kardashians treat TikTok is as like family blog. They don't do their like anything prestigious, their EW shit. They try to make like family content because that's what appeals on TikTok, is people just being raw and unfiltered and just really fucking genuine. And so I feel like that whole like celebrity, like you only would do a late night show and that's the only time that you would talk, doesn't work anymore, because the way that TikTok marketing blew up like fully changed how we view celebrity, and what we like in celebrity became relatability. I'm sure YouTube had a like huge impact on that too. But I remember, I think, like, I'm not positive if this is correct or it's like it just made up in my head at some point, but I'm pretty sure that Jack Nicholson for a really long time wouldn't do interviews because he was worried that people wouldn't buy his characters.
Huh.
That he was avoiding doing press because he was worried that people would just see Jack Nicholson. Do you ever worry about that? About
Interesting.
like the idea that like someone will just see Ben or someone will just see Abu, like it, and that like if you're too real into yourself, that they won't buy into a role?
I had someone tweet at me once. I don't know, whatever it is I was
Already
doing.
off to a
I
bad
think
start.
I did. I do these stupid fucking videos, and one of them was about like thanking the porn bots. It was over Christmas, and I thanked. It was
Oh right, okay, yeah.
It was just a festive thank you to the porn bots for being so nice and liking all the stuff this year. It was very stupid. I was in my Ben's an idiot era. I think the meme had just come out, and it was like, whatever, I don't care. And someone just messaged me underneath, "You're ruining the character of Clive for me."
Oh, that's so good. Clive's this
And
fucking idiot?
this guy, this
Oh.
dickhead, because I think people find that difficult to understand that I'm not that character. They want me to be that character, but I'm not. I will pretend to be that character for you, and I will try and, artificially recreate those feelings and make you feel everything that you fucking wanted to feel, because that's acting. That's what that is. If you can believe that character isn't me. But I think in video games, we have leaned into the idea of like conventions where you are that character, that parasocial relationship with the character. I am not Clive. I'm not Kazan or whatever the roles that I'm doing next. I am pretending to be, and people hire me because of my ability to do that in that way. And all the other roles that I've got coming up or whatever, you go, I'm not that person. I'm this person. Love this person for being an idiot, or just appreciate the work that I do. You don't have to do both.
You are a man in a sexy Tifa cosplay.
I've still got it. I'm
Not
gonna wear it.
quite.
I'm gonna wear it for one episode.
Incredibly beautiful. You should.
Yes.
No, I think for a while I was, and now it's almost like, well, I've just got to be completely chameleon in the roles that I do, that people end up turning around and being like, wait, that's Bayek, or wait, that's like Alan. Like, I think I enjoy that challenge of, people being like, oh my God, didn't know that he did this.
I guess
or he
even
did
I
that.
do that
Like,
when I talk to you. Like, I completely forget that you're Bayek all the time. Because
like,
you are
so this is
nothing
so-
like him.
Well, this is it. Yeah, I'm not a ruthless like killer who's going
Very
out for revenge.
straight-laced.
Well, yeah, but this is it. Like, I think like that to me then that's the work. That's the art. That's the painting. That's the thing that I want to do. So I want to almost detach it and remove it from myself to a degree. And I think like but you can still enjoy me for who I am. I can still be the creative director of making games. I can still be that businessman. I can still be that person. I think there is an element of me that's sometimes a bit like, actually, I especially with social media, I find that balance of like, how much do I give? How much do I not give? Like, is it really, and I think I'm getting there slowly. I'm just realizing again, like maybe, I think Twitter's just a fucking cesspit anyway.
Yeah,
but,
I very rarely use Twitter
like,
anymore because
it's
it fucking
just,
sucks.
it's stupid.
It got real
But
bad.
like, it's like, yeah,
It's
but
bad.
I think, yeah, I used to worry about it, but now I don't care, because ultimately the work will speak for itself.
Yeah.
And I'm finding like a lot of people within the industry as well, like they respect that and they see that and they rate that, and that's cool. Doing a lot of like the sort of tabletop role-playing stuff that I do, either with like Critical Role or like Glass Cannon, like that's me playing, right? And a lot of the time, normally you would see it as, oh, but you're showing yourself that you're so available for all this other, and I'm like, I'm just having fun. Like, that's me playing and having fun, and people care. Like, people want to see that, right? They don't want to see you as someone who takes yourself so seriously that you'd be a douche to go to a party with. No, they want to have fun. So
Totally.
yeah, I'm like of that mentality of like, I can deliver a bloodthirsty role or like whatever when the time comes for it. But ultimately, I want to have fun. I want to enjoy myself.
So these are available to you now. These are avenues that like the job requires. You are successful at what you do because you're very good at all of them, and you should be able to be good at all of those things. But there is this need to kind of be like, stick to your lane,
Yeah, innit? Yeah.
If you do comedy, you just do comedy.
Yeah.
If you do drama, you just do drama.
It's interesting how much image matters where a career in acting is concerned. Like, that doesn't relate to a lot of other fields, in that like just creating a perception of you and what you are and where you rank as an actor is so important. And it's sort of all made up. Like, there are rules that
It
like
really
people
is.
have abided by, and like if you want to be the guy who shows up at every Omega party and has a photo on a red carpet because you're trying to maybe angle for Bond, like I could see that being like a thought process. Or like if you want certain roles, maybe you take like particular kinds of photos on social media and share them. But like, it's such a like a fucking head fuck, because everyone's going to perceive you differently regardless, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like,
but I'll be honest,
based on
like,
what
yeah,
they do
but
and
I
don't
don't
see. Like, it's such a
but I just think it just doesn't work anymore. Like, I think probably back in the day,
Yeah.
like probably you'd want to be, you'd want to be the it girl or be like the, the guy that everyone's talking about in the town.
But
Like,
can't
so you do these
access.
events. But like there are so many events now. There are so many actors. There's so much, content. It's almost like you don't have to do that. You really don't. Unless you enjoy it, go to town. But like ultimately, like, yeah, that is not going to get you Bond. That really isn't. The person who's going to get you Bond is
Barbara Broccoli.
Yeah, exactly. Who's going to be like, I want you to play Bond. Like, do you know what I mean? You could be in the middle of fuck nowhere, and if she wants it to happen, it'll happen. But not you going to like a Dunhill event looking all suave. Like, I don't give a fuck about that. You know what I mean?
Dunhill events, the Alfred Dunhills. Have you done those?
Yeah.
You've done those?
Oh, mate.
I went to one. I went to one. It was.
What is this? Sorry, I need context.
Okay, so this is kind of not like deep young actor lore. Is this just like this is the journey that you have to
just the journey you have to go through?
The pre-BAFTA Alfred Dunhill party is pretty much where every sexy hot young thing they're about to be in Bridgerton or just have been, or they've when I went, it was at the cast of like 1917, and Bridgerton was about to come out, and it's every hot young British actor of the moment is crammed into this tiny like bar area.
Wow, yeah.
And everyone's dressed up in tuxedos and has an Alfred Dunhill photo, and if you're seen at that party, that's like you've made it. You're a person of the moment. Like, go and have a look. They're crazy. It's and I went because I have a production company with a lovely casting director. We were like, let's go to because there's the party and then there's the dinner. The party is where the young people go, but the dinner is where the actors go. So I went. So the casting director I was with is this amazing casting director called Lucinda Syson. She cast so many things like The Dark Knight, Wonder Woman, and I have this production company with her. And she was like, Ben, we're going to go to the dinner. We're just going to nip along to the dinner. And I was like, let's nip along to the dinner.
That's amazing that you got to the dinner, man, because the dinner's like.
We went at
fabled
the
dinner that nobody gets to. I love it.
Because
this is good lore.
Because it's like you're one of the hot young things, or you are established British acting royalty or American royalty. So I rock up, and we weren't invited to dinner. Luce was just going because she was like, whatever, Ben, we'll go. We nipped along at dessert. There was no space for us at the table. Stanley Tucci was at the table, and he was like, I'll have my seat. So I sat in Stanley Tucci's seat. And he was like, "Oh, I'll just go and hang out with Felicity." So I'm there with Jason Isaacs and Mark Strong, and I'm eating Stanley Tucci's lemon posset
from his cutlery.
He's like, please, just have it. It's fine. And I'm like, I will, Stanley. And you're looking around, and this is the room that you fucking want to be in. This is the room where, like,
that's where things happen.
That's where the things happen. It's not the people who are crammed in
the party.
At the party, who are like,
cool,
I love being
drinking
here.
their cocktails.
It's so, oh man, it's so funny you mentioned that, because I remember like going to the party again, first time being invited to this party. So I'm like there, I'm like, oh, this is cool, this is fun. And one of the first questions you get asked by anyone and everyone is, were you at the dinner? And you're like, and I'm like, I didn't know there was even a fucking dinner. Like,
there's another room.
It's a complete other room. Yeah. Amazing. It's so funny that you mentioned that, man. Yeah.
But that's the
way you're seen.
For sure. I mean, that's all status, right? That's not you working. That's you showing up at a fucking dinner. Like, crazy. I have two British boys here. How would either of you feel about playing Bond? Is it something that appeals to every young British actor? Is it a constant aspiration for all of you? Do people ask you about it all the time? What does it mean?
Do you want to go first, Ben, or
yeah? I'll say my experience is I think it's the most fucking stupid thing ever. Is like when you're a young actor, you're told, "Oh my God, do you want to play James Bond?" That's crazy to say that, because there's only like one Bond every 10 years. It's the most ungettable thing. And what that says to you is, are you a good-looking guy?
Yeah.
you know. And the sweepstakes in the UK are always like, oh, a person does a spy thing and then suddenly they're in the running for Bond, you know. And there's always like, it's just bookies wanting to
Not
make
true.
money. Do I want to
Yeah.
play Bond? I'm like, I don't want to play Bond, no, because Bond isn't a particularly interesting role. If you want to talk about being stuck in a role, tell me the actors who've been able to escape Bond. Like Craig is doing it in the funniest way by playing some like Southern detective
A Southern gay detective.
yeah. And I'm like, he's gone, I'm just going to talk like this the whole time. And I'm like, okay.
all he
That's what
could
he
do.
has to do. That's what he has to do in order to escape Bond. It's like, do you want to do that? No, I want to create good. He puts on a silly accent and like, no, I don't want to do that. I remember sitting in a room. I was filming a show called Nightfall, which was really fucking fun. Mark Hamill was playing like a Vesemir type character in it, and like it was filming out in Prague, and I was there with another actor, and he's a brilliant actor. He was a couple of years below me at Lambda, but we were kind of like playing brothers on this show. And we were in one of the bars in Prague where like they play Bond all the time, and we were watching, I don't know, like whatever the fuck it was, Thunderball. And he was like, God, I'd love to play Bond. Would you? And I went, no, I'd love to be the person that writes Bond or casts Bond or has the power to create the next Bond is far more interesting to me than playing that character. Being in the other room is more exciting to me. Going to the dinner is more exciting to me than being like hoping one day that I might have the opportunity to be good looking enough to be judged harshly. Like, no, fuck no, I don't want to do that at all.
Yeah.
And it's a bizarre aspiration that for some reason people want us to fit into. Also, people want actors to fit into molds. They go, I know what that mold is, which is good looking, charming guy who fights people.
There's a lot of that with
But
Marvel too, I think. Like there's this assumption that every actor wants to end up in Marvel. Like you want to be, you do a Marvel movie, right?
Yeah,
Like, and people ask us about it all the time.
I think that at a time, absolutely, right? But like now, no. Like it
What's your answer to the
it's
Bond
not
question? Same as Ben?
Yeah, no, yeah, it is, but it's different in the sense that I think it has. If you were to cast me as Bond, it will become political,
Right.
because of the color of my
I
skin.
wondered if you would say
And
that.
like, and it is true, because everyone's like, oh yeah, black Bond, we need a black Bond. It's
The
like,
shit whoever that is
yes,
would have to
please,
endure.
man. It would, and it's just that. It's just not only that, but it's like, I don't want to be in a production where it has to be answered. So, but the thing is that ultimately it will always be mentioned. So like, the idea of like, let's say, your cast is Bond and it's like, yeah, okay, they got a black Bond. It's almost like they have to say something about it, right? They have to say like, oh, well, this character's black. What's his family life like? Or what's his history? And then it's like, now you're detracting away from what Bond
And
is,
all of your
right?
press interviews would be first black Bond.
All of exactly. But then let's say the production don't do anything about that. They don't mention anything at all about the fact that you are a black Bond or, whatever, you're just playing Bond. It's still going to be a thing. And I think like, to me, it's as Ben says, it's like this weird role that that happens like luckily every 10 years, maybe, if they decide to. And it's that kind of, shooting for this role, which actually, why not just do your own thing, man? Like, like just make your own kind of Bond-esque spin-off. Like, it's all well and good, like, don't get me wrong, like the actors who do get Bond set for life. Like, it's a job that sets you for life, totally. But at the same time, that is your life then. That's you now. And I think like that's not something that I love the flexibility of playing all these different roles and different characters. I love being able to break molds rather than necessarily, go for it. And I think like, and again, don't get me wrong, I think we've all gone through the moment of like, yeah, that's a role to get, because then that will kind of set you up and do whatever. But the more experience you have, the more time you spend in the industry, the more you know, the more you realize like, actually a role like that,
Limits you.
it's a moment, because to break from that is so hard.
You'd be rich and
so hard.
famous, but that doesn't necessarily make you an actor.
Well, this is it.
Also, it's a symptom of wanting to create order in chaos, which is when you're an actor, you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what roles you're going to play.
Yeah.
You don't know, but if creating order in the chaos is the one thing you can shoot for is the one knowable character that you know, which is James Bond. It's this character that everyone likes. So that's a hallmark of
What
success.
even
In
is
the
he as a
UK,
character?
he's a
Who even is
fucking
he?
misogynist.
Yeah.
Like it's it's a weird thing, but you're right. Like you said, you want to break molds a bit. I think also making them is great. Like make
Yes.
molds,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
the thing where you're going like, I'm not coming in to shatter a glass ceiling. I'm coming in to make a whole new fucking
Yeah.
house.
In your own new
Like,
house. Yeah,
let's
man.
let's build this thing. And you know, when people keep asking me, so I've been very vocal about how like I'd love to play Raziel in a Soul Reaver remake or whatever, right? And I'm like, yeah, that would be really cool. But also, wouldn't it be cool to create a character that's equally iconic on my own terms? And that's more interesting, where people then going, who I would want people to be like, oh, I'd love to remake the character that Ben did. But I think there's this obsession to kind of like take stuff that we already know because we can comprehend it in the chaos that is what
Yeah.
this fucking industry is that we do,
Yeah.
where we go, I want the sequel to this. I want the this to this because that I know, as opposed to I want to build something from where there was nothing. And that's cool. That's interesting to me.
I've been doing press all day for the last 2 days for VHS Beyond, which is my first time doing this kind of thing in any acting way. So I was actually
I will
up.
be first in line for those
Thank you, appreciate
tickets.
that, October 4th. I've been up since 3:30 a.m. To do back-to-back press for VHS Beyond, which has been really fun. Everyone's been really cool to talk to. I was expecting to have like the same questions over and over again, but they were like super varied. Some people had some really fun questions to ask, and it was really fun to get to do it with Kate Siegel, the director. People have been asking me if I have like a dream role that I would like to play after this, and I feel like my answer is really boring. And then I always say, absolutely not. I just like working with really talented people. So it's not that I'm interested in any particular character that doesn't exist or that has already been written. It's more that there are people or teams that I would want to work with, and it's
Yeah.
always the people you can learn from. Like I always want to work, and it's the coolest thing about the position I have in game development is like everyone's so much fucking smarter than me and they know all this cool shit, and it's like so cool to just be around those kind of creative people. So I don't really care about what character I play as much as I care about who I do it with and what I learn from the experience and being surrounded by people that can make me better.
Yeah,
Which
I don't
again,
think
I
that's
feel like is
boring. I think that's really cool. I think that's so
Yeah.
cool.
it means more than just like
Yeah.
like I could give you the easy answer. I think I'd do like a great FBI agent. I could do a detective. Like I could do that kind of stuff I think really easily. Like I'm sure I'd probably find it really fun. Like I think I could do you give me some like nerdy FBI girl, I think I'd do a great job with that. But that's not what I want in terms of like the thing you want is to continue to be inspired, not expired. I don't want to die. Inspired by the art you make, you know, and the people you make it with.
Do you feel like also, because it's such a long time doing this stuff, you're committing something? We're at a point now where we're not getting on, but it's not like you're 19, you've got the whole world in front of you. You start thinking, I've done some shit now. I've learned some stuff. And you're like, okay, I now see whatever the commitment I'm making, it's a commitment that I'm making to that thing, but it's also a commitment I'm making to not do other things.
Yeah.
So you have to be like, right, okay, this is talking about like selecting projects. I'm like, okay, if I do this, that means I have to really want to do this because there are going to be other things that I don't yet know about that chaos could throw my way that I'm saying no to essentially by doing that. And so it's like, not only does the project have to be good, but am I going to have fun doing it?
Mm.
Am I going to have it with nice people? And this is why I think you see a lot of directors or creatives work with the same people again and again and again and again,
100%.
because it's like, we just want to do it with nice fucking people.
People
Just
you
work
like.
with nice, good people.
Yeah.
And that's why you see, like, projects you go, it's the same cast. And it's like, they're being lazy. I'm like, they are probably, but also it's because they're good at what they do and they had a nice time making it. I think that is, and I want to do stuff with people that I know I'm going to go and think I wasn't vampirically sucked of my soul whilst making this project. I don't care if it's good or not.
So actually,
here's
a question then. Say, for example, like, I don't know, Jordan Peele decides that he's going to do Bond. Or, would you consider it?
Do you know what this is? I just wouldn't ever be asked. Like, I just wouldn't ever be. I'm just not Bond. I've made my peace
but like,
with that.
but this is the thing though. But if, like, for example,
good role scenes with a boo,
like, but like, just for example, like, if it happens, if it did, like, because I think I agree, like, with that mentality of like it's about the people that you work with now. I think like it's so important. Like again, and don't get me wrong. Like I think Raised by Wolves was only as much fun as it was. It was crazy. It was like a weird project, like mental. But because the people were so cool and so great to kind of work with around, it it amplified. It just made it so much fun. It made it so great. And I've worked um on shows before where the people haven't been great.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible show, really good show, but the people have been rough and like it's not been fun. And it kind of solidified that same mentality of like, yeah, it has to be about the people that you're actually working with. And even now with like House of the Dragon, I think I'm very fortunate to be working with really cool people, directors, cool writers, cool actors. And it makes me think like, yeah, if like, let's say even a Marvel film, for example, was taken in a direction where I guess like you look like a Ryan Coogler or something like that, where you've got like the artist at the head is really like, I want to make this interesting, really cool, want to tell us a cool story within this universe. That's quite enticing, whereas yeah, I wouldn't want to do like but again, it's hard though. I guess with something as big as a franchise like Bond and Marvel or anything like that, they have to go by the formula. And I think
Yeah.
Totally.
yeah, I think that's probably why Blade was in such development hell. I mean, I don't know necessarily the details of it, but probably that sense of like there is a formula you got to abide by, and if you don't abide by that, you're out. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Marvel's a genre in
I,
itself.
yeah, I
yeah.
was in a game. Have you heard of it? It's called Final Fantasy 16 with an actor called Ralph Ineson, who is now playing Galactus in the
I mean,
MCU.
that is incredible.
Such a good
And
casting decision. That's so
Such
good.
a
it really
great
is. And he's I love Ralph. Ralph and I get on, we go out for drinks and talk about stuff. And he's kind of, he was kind of a bit shell shocked when we were going for drinks like the other week. He was like, yeah, I'm fucking Galactus. That's mad. And because he doesn't know what he's in for in this
His
thing.
life
He's
is
going
different
from
now.
he works with like good, he's in The Witch, he's in Nosferatu that's coming out. This is a man that Guillermo del Toro like
I mean, isn't he
speaks.
in The Office?
He's
He
Finch.
is
Yeah.
yeah.
He actually told me the other day that he can't do quizzes anymore because the whole storyline in The Office is that Finchie's really aggressive in quizzes, and whenever he turns up to like a pub quiz, people are like, "Oh, Finchie," and he's like, "Oh, fuck's sake." So he like has PTSD. But that idea of an actor who's so experienced and has worked like a huge breadth of work, both in video games and film, and is now entering the MCU because of this work that they're doing, which is a whole other ball game. He's like, I've
Yeah.
never been on a production like it.
Yeah.
It's just it's completely different to working on even massive, Nosferatu that's coming out, big horror. He's like, it's a different beast to that.
Yeah.
And
To
Like,
wrap
it's not
and
this,
you
the same.
can't break that. Yeah.
no, to wrap this conversation up, because I feel like this is like we've unintentionally hit a theme we didn't even mean to. What do you guys do when it comes to choosing roles? Like, what are you thinking when something gets offered to you? Like, what is the thought process for what you will and won't accept? How much do you weigh up what it costs, where it shoots, what it means for you, how it progresses your career? Because there's so many factors beyond just like the kind of things that I would accept when taking a job, which is it's
Mhm.
9 to 5. What are the benefits? Like, it's a very, very different landscape. So what is the deciding factor, or like how do you scale those things in terms of the jobs that you choose?
For me, to kind of condense all the ideas that I would probably have in answer to that is afterlife. What's the afterlife of this project? What lives on after it's done, whether that is professionally, personally, emotionally. Does this in some way create a level of forward momentum? I don't want to exist in stasis. And that doesn't necessarily have to be the project's going to shoot me off to stardom, but I want to feel like there is a sense of momentum moving forward, that it's the right next step. Like, I've set myself up very brilliantly, luckily, with the work that I've done. I want to keep that forward momentum while still enriching myself personally. And so it's always going, what lives on after this thing is complete? What do I take from this that I can move on into the next thing to maintain that momentum? I don't want to be like, oh, I've spent like a year on this and I have kind of nothing to really show for it. It was just me treading water, doing the same thing. So It doesn't mean it has to be more of the same. It can be something different, but I want to feel like there's a journey
Mm.
and a continuing on to make something bigger.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say the same. I would also say, like, I think it's very different now, again, being in this position. I think when I was starting out, there was not necessarily a moment of like, I will take anything, but there was a feeling of like, I've just got to get the experience. I've got to start somewhere, because as soon as you start somewhere, you can build from there. And I think it's that afterlife. It's that feeling of like, yeah, how do I continue this momentum forward? How do I keep going? How does it affect? How does it change? And I think, like, yeah, now it's about that. And I feel, especially now, when you're again in the positions that we're luckily and fortunately to be in, we get to feel like, yeah, how does this challenge me? How does this, what's going to be exciting about this and really cool that I can build and take and play with? Or maybe sometimes you might be like, actually, I can just have a bit of fun with this. I can kind of let myself go here. So, but it is always with the element of pushing forward, moving forward, going forward. So yeah, it's that sort of where what my head is at when it comes to choosing roles and stuff.
Being fortunate to kind of like diversify the stuff that we do, there are some projects that don't have to serve that because you are doing a
Yeah.
project that does serve that.
Yep.
So by being like, okay, you know, I'm doing this thing over here, which is a thing that's going to move me forward, it means that I can spend time doing something that I genuinely love, or might be helping a friend or doing a smaller project that enriches
Yeah.
something else. And so by looking at going, you've got the big broad arc, and then what are the smaller ones in between that time that kind of bring you pleasure and bring you joy. It doesn't always have to be service of something greater. It can be service of something smaller joyous, or smaller pleasure.
Mhm.
So yeah,
It's funny. It's like even like with the game roles, actually, that I've been doing recently. Uh, what's been great is, because I've been, busy with the acting stuff and all this sort of jazz and everything with House of the Dragon, and even with my game studio, I can afford to do like the small little roles here and there. Like I did like, a really small role in the first Descendant, which is like, again, when I'm looking at the game, I'm like, that is like a different game to what I thought it was gonna be. But I can afford to do that and like kind of have fun with it and throw it away because of the position that I'm in and like what I'm doing. So yeah, I agree. It's not always trying to build. There are elements of like actually being able to do it for friends or do something, do something fun as well that way. So yeah, it's varied, as long as it doesn't, I guess, I think you've got to have like a feeling of like, as long as you are moving forward and that afterlife element
This is
is
another
there.
question. I mean, obviously, I said we are going to wrap it up, but this is so
Yeah,
interesting. We could clearly do this podcast for a lot longer. People talk about momentum when acting. Do you
right.
feel like momentum is a real thing? Like the idea that someone
yes.
is getting momentum and it's taking them? And what does that mean?
Mhm. I fully agree with momentum. I think it is a thing that people believe, and there I think I believe it to be true, because it's not universally true, because people can buck the trend and be like, I don't have to have that, but yes, there is and it happens quite early, and you don't recognize that it's happening. Sometimes someone can decide that someone's really hot right now. Thank you, Zoolander. And they can be like, I want to get in on this at the ground floor. So they
Mm.
invest and they invest and they invest. And what you have is sometimes projects don't even come out yet, but they go, I want to get my person involved in that project. I want to get this person, this person, this person. Often it's
Mm,
a casting director being like, this actor is in this project and they're about to be in this project in a year's time. So invest in them now and they're cheap so you can get them in the thing. And so that's what momentum happens.
Mm.
You wonder why there are so many of the same actors in the same stuff, because people are very short-sighted, because they have the momentum of like, people want to put them in stuff
Glen
because
Powell,
they believe
baby.
yeah,
yeah.
it's all doing, we're in the Glen Powell business right now.
Yep.
And when it comes to video games, I've certainly, after 16 came out, I felt and do feel like there is a momentum of people. I do audition, but I don't have to audition in the same way that I did before. I'm not auditioning to the nebulous internet. I'm speaking to the creative director of the
Mm.
project.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like I have a collaborative say in the character. People are coming to me before the character's written and are saying, would you like to think about how you might bring this character to life? Which is not how I got Clive, and certainly not how I got other roles in this industry. And I want to maintain that sort of thing. So there is, I'm sure it'll stop. I'm sure people will be like, Ben's in too many things. But been a noticeable thing with me, and so that's why I'm quite tired, because I'm always on the, okay, I need to be over here, I need to be over here, I need to take this call with this person and do this and this and this, and in a
Because it's
boot,
happening right now. You could fuck it up in theory, right? You could just let it
yeah,
slip.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can, yeah, and I didn't want to sit there and go, God, I wasted this year, when
Yeah.
people actually gave a shit about the work that I do.
Yeah, and I think like that's the thing. It's like it's that whole thing of like there is a momentum that happens without your control, but also something that you have to also take control of. And I think like that, it's riding a wave. That's it. And like, and it's a balance. Like you can't be there and just try and push yourself on this wave, because then people will notice that and then they'll come back. But like there is a balance to it, and I think there is a momentum to it. And you can make a momentum. Like I find as well, like you can find mini waves. You can find something that allows you to kind of rise it and challenge it and play it. You know what I mean? Like you can make a meal out of anything. You've just got to be delicate about it, or be aware of it, and do it strategically, rather than necessarily like throw yourself at everything that comes at you.
I
Yeah, you
had
can't make the
momentum
wave.
in 2020.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting one because I opted not to do it, but I know that I had it. So I was nominated for Content Creator of the Year. I joined Sony Santa Monica Studio. I streamed with AOC. I streamed with XQC, like these huge people during the pandemic. And I'm actively aware that that was the turning point of if I was going to ever do full-time content creator, it would have been in 2020, and I chose not to. But I had the cards lined up where I could have gone full-time Twitch and had a much bigger content creation following than I do now. And I chose to work at Sony Santa Monica Studio instead. But I think about it all the time that I'm like, I know I had that fork right then in that year where I gained so
That's
many
really cool.
subscribers, and I went, no, I definitely want to do this thing instead. But it was there.
And respect for that, because also the thing is that, and you should also take that into consideration, as the fact that will always be there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That will always, you'll always have that moment. That moment will always be there, and that's a pretty cool fucking moment to have. Do you know what I mean? And I think like that's, and being able to notice that, I think, is really cool and fascinating.
The
and
thing that gets
interesting,
me,
'cause
sometimes
it
I think
is.
about the money. In that I made so much money in terms of content creation that year because I had so many people watching me just in that
Right.
period of time. And I've never made that much money on YouTube ever again. Not even fucking close. Like,
Wow.
it was crazy because it was also the launch of the new console. So it was PS5
Okay.
and Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
And that was, I was talking about both of those. I'll never be able to do that again now that I've worked at PlayStation. I'll never make that kind of content ever again. And it
I
was
think you
wild.
future-proofed yourself, though. You have future-proofed yourself, because there are so many content creators that came out of that period of time that made a lot of money during that time, and now they don't make as much money as
It
they
just
did.
didn't make me as
Yeah.
happy.
Also,
That's
like
all it was.
I can't remember where I listened to this, but someone said, maybe a couple of days ago, someone's describing someone as the mouth of the river. It's like things flow from me, not through me. And this idea of like, what is it that you create and what do you do? And I think you are a mouth of a river. Things flow from you. You create so many different things in so many different ways. You don't need to ride a wave of something else. You can create something because you've created a platform. You're providing a platform for us to talk about this. Like, there are so many different ways in which you can see that what it is that you create. Are you the person who is the originator of it, or do things pass by you and you experience them as you go? And I think that you making that active choice, like you reinvesting in yourself in the long term, is absolutely the right thing you should have done.
It's foundation building, man.
Yeah, I don't think I
Building
made the wrong
foundations.
call. It's just a weird thing to be very aware of. Like, I definitely
Yeah.
know that I made that choice then, and that I don't have that choice again. My content creation thing, I will never have 1 million followers. That I made the choice the day that I chose it, and it's never
I
gonna
don't
happen.
think you can never say
Well,
never, man. You
not
have
for
no idea.
not in that way. Like, I could get it for some other reason, like,
For sure.
anyone can go viral, right? But not for the kind of
Killer
content
guy.
I was making at that time, where it was where it's PS5, Xbox One, editorial video game stuff. It's done. Like, that path is done. And yeah, I'm totally fine with having done it. But speaking of like making a bunch of stuff, there was one more thing that like came into my head while we were having this conversation. I've been directing some things and I really like directing. I had this conversation with Rahul where it comes to working with actors who suck, where I was like, why don't directors interview actors? If I were going to make a feature, I would fucking interview actors, because I feel like I want to know that that person is going to be fun to work with and is going to have my back and is not going to be a crybaby. And he was like, because they're actors, they'll fucking lie to you. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. Because it seems crazy to like see somebody's resume and see that their work is good, but not have a fucking interview where you'd be like, how do you work? How do you problem solve? Just to get a vibe. Like, it's one of the only jobs where it's so importantly collaborative, but we don't have a fucking interview process.
Yeah.
It's so weird to me. So like,
You also don't know how you're going to be on a rainy Thursday evening in the middle of the
True.
mud where you've got 5 minutes
how
to
would they
get,
even
you
know?
know,
Yeah.
how would you know what you are? Also, there was I'm always very aware of when people describe actors on set or people on set and they go, I didn't like the way they are, or didn't like the way they spoke to the crew, or didn't like the whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea
What led to that?
how long that person,
Yeah.
why that thing's happening. I would never excuse people being abusive on set. That is not okay. But also people coming in and saying, oh, they were quite short with me. They didn't say anything. Like, because it's a work environment and everyone's creative, the way that they work is completely different. And you have to, sometimes it's not nice to, they're lovely people, but they're terrible to work with. But you just have to kind of let them exist in that creative space so
True.
they can create the same product. But yeah, I think you don't know how the people are going to reveal themselves in a creative
I
outlet,
did have
especially when
one
they're
moment on VHS where I had to ask two of the crew, and I felt like such a shit for doing it because it feels like such a cliche, but I had to ask them to be quiet after a take because it was the most intense scene that we shot, and I realized after our 8th take or whatever that hearing them cut and make jokes immediately was actually making it really hard for me to stay in that space that I was supposed to
Focus
be
and
in.
get back into it.
And
Yeah.
I asked very politely. They weren't upset. Like, they totally understood, but it felt like such a shitty thing to request, but I also totally needed it. And if I didn't have that experience, I would maybe from the outside not understand what that is. But I'd be like,
Yeah.
they're just making jokes? And they're like, yeah, but when I have to be fucking existentially fucking terrified, somebody making a joke pulls me out of that straight away. And it's really hard to
Yep.
get back in. It's such a fragile, unique thing to exist in.
What's-
It's some feature length. You like that every day and you expect them not to like ask for something. Like, it's a tough job.
you're also discovering what your process is, right? To get there. It's like, that's your you need to do that. And that's not being selfish. You're just asking people to be a little bit selfless in that, you know, not tread on toes. Like, we've all been there. It's like, it's your moment, you know, and I think it's about being respectful. Like, who's the scene about as well? Whatever it is you
Sure.
do, it's like, who's almost like who's the camera going to be on most of the time? And that's
Also, yeah. And also I was gonna say, like, I think with the whole mentality of it all, like, and I kind of think about it as well. It's like interviewing an actor, like, I get it. Like, I want to work with someone who I can, who I can get on with as a human being, and I kind of just give you the benefit of the doubt. However, on the day of filming, I don't care about that person. I care about the artist. I want you to do the job. Like, and that's important. That's the thing for me. Like, that's gonna sell this, not the fact that I get on with you and that you're a nice guy or a nice girl. Like, I just like
It's not that you need
ultimately
to be nice. It's that you need to be
it's
reliable.
well, this is it, and I get that, and that's the thing, and that's kind of like you. I think I think you hope that, and like through
Yeah.
experience, and and it's funny, like, actually Jason was like a mutual kind of relationship of ours between me and Ben.
Islam.
Jason, but yeah, he said to me something really profound when we were doing Jamestown, and he said, like, nowadays, as long as you're not a dick, you can work. You'll be working. And whereas beforehand, back in the day, I think, from what he was saying, like, you could be an absolute asshole, but you'd still, people would have to make this film for you because you're the star or whatever. But whereas nowadays, like, that shit doesn't fly. So you almost come in thinking like, yeah, you're going to be reliable, you're going to do the job, like, it's going to be okay, it's going to be good, because there's so much talent out there nowadays. So I almost think like it's kind of expected to kind of be like, yeah, you're reliable, you're going to get the job done. You've
True.
worked on, you've done X, Y, and Z. Like, there's a reason why you've done all these projects, is because you have been reliable.
It's
You've
true.
got the notches. So it's just about, I think, yeah, then it's now just about, can you deliver? Because the last thing also that you want is like the friendly chummy guy who's going to be on set all the time and really nice, and then when the cameras roll, they are
Can't do it.
terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
It's the talent to arsehole ratio.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
Just
Yeah.
yeah,
are you talented enough to be this much of an arsehole? And
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by that. I'm like, because there are people out who are so fucking talented, and therefore they can be arseholes
Yeah.
because what they're bringing is added value, and it's so annoying. Because you're like, you're so good, but you are the worst person ever, but we can't get rid of you because your talent is so great.
yeah,
And there are some people whose careers are built on that. They're like, but they're talented because they're an arsehole. Like, don't have to be.
No.
But there are some people I see who are not as talented as they think they are, and they're real assholes.
Yeah.
They're real assholes. Like, you are not talented enough to be this much of an asshole, and you won't work.
Happens
You
in the
won't
games
Yeah.
work.
industry as well, and they don't work. The people who like have that attitude and like talk shit to other devs on Twitter and think that they're going to make it to a AAA studio never happens. It does not
Like,
work.
that's a weird thing. I find a level of Twitter in general, but like the negativity of professional individuals when they're slagging off something that and I say slagging off, and they say something
man.
negative. I'm like, what are you doing?
I'm mad
That's
careful
so
about the way I talk
stupid.
shit about other video games because,
So
like I said, you know how hard they are
stupid.
to make.
Yeah,
It's
it's like,
yeah.
what do you mean you're saying that about? It's like, and when they're trying to be reductive for what? So 43 people can like a thing that you've
Yeah.
tweeted. Like, what's the point of that? You're just shooting yourself in the
Doesn't
foot.
work, man.
If you don't
Just
like
doesn't.
something, just shut up.
Yeah.
Innit? Just keep like, and I like, unless it's critical, and even then when it's critical, like, why are you shouting it to the masses? Like, talk to it, you know.
It's also like from your perspective,
it's very weird.
will you like if you don't like a film or a TV show, would you just not say anything about it? Because that could
I'll
be
tell
people
my
you could
friends
work
I
with.
don't
Yeah,
like
you
it.
tell your friends.
Yeah,
You
but you're not
go
gonna
have a
tweet?
drink. Yeah. You're not
Because
gonna.
like they
No,
could be your
why?
colleagues at some point. People in that.
Yeah, it's so silly.
What's the afterlife? As I said, what's the fucking afterlife of that tweet? You've said, okay, right. So you get to do a tweet that you think might be quippy, and again, it'll be viewed by a couple of people, and you'll get 58 likes on it,
Yeah,
or
for what?
whatever. For what? For what? For engagement? Are you willing to kind of shoot yourself in the foot and be like, well, that person slagged our product? It's an awkward thing
Yeah.
because also when people are mean to me, I remember. Believe me, I'm a vindictive little shit. Like, if people, I've saved tweets on my phone where I'm like, oh, people were like deliberately mean to me.
I would if
And
it was
like,
people in the industry. I'd be like, I'm gonna remember that one.
Yeah.
I have remembered it. Because
Clearly, I
like,
haven't. There's no way no one's been mean to me, and I don't have any of those. So maybe I need to get better.
People
at that.
people can say things that they don't like about me. That's fine, you know, like that I'm ruining the character of Clive or whatever. But when I see something that's deliberately mean because they did it for likes, I'm like, oh. And the way this is probably awful. The way I get around it is I'm really nice to them. I'm really
Good.
nice to them
Yeah.
because I want you to be like, you're going to regret ever saying a nasty thing because you're just like, Ben is fucking delightful. And like, and I'll go out of my way to be nice to you as well.
It's
I'll
a
be
little
like, what do you
psychopathic, but
need?
I'm into it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm not going to be mean to them because also like mean isn't really my thing, but I'll still stew inside, you know, and be like, what can I do to help you? What can I do?
Don't.
I love that.
Yeah, no,
feeling.
I find it very silly. I think again, and there's a lot of people out there who's like, yeah, but we just want to, you know, we want to say what we're thinking. We don't want to be held back by like, you know, the political sort of whatever mind frame. Like we want to say what we.
It's
It's
respect.
like you're not doing anything you're not doing not even just yourself favors, but even anyone else around you favors. Like you're just doing it for engagement, or you're doing it to like, you know, show like, oh, I'm the loud guy. But like saying that, go say that in a public space in front of someone, in front of other artists. You wouldn't like it if someone said that stuff about you in front of, you know, anyone else. So why are you doing
It's
it?
also people aren't asking you to
so
lie.
weird.
They're not saying don't tell the truth. We're not trying to censor you.
No.
It's not like a don't lie and say you love something when you don't love it. No one is saying that. It's just don't be a fucking asshole about things for attention on Twitter.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And I think like, yeah, it's very weird.
What did you want to achieve? What was the end game here? What did you
It's
want?
followers. It has to be.
Like the negativity peddling in that way, I get it, because there's this, you know, we don't need to get into that right now about engaging that. But when it comes to just being like flat out, just like mean, you're like going, what did you think was going to happen? It's like a kid hitting another kid and be like, what do you think was going to happen here? What was the, please tell me what you thought the end game was here. Like, what was the best thing that could have happened to you?
Of that slap.
Yeah. What is the afterlife of the fucking slap? It's so silly.
Yeah, man.
But people don't think.
If I didn't care about SEO, I would call this episode the afterlife of the slap. think that's beautiful. But also for everyone who
Yeah.
keeps asking about audio version, I'm intending to put up an audio version, but I'm having trouble because I guess some other podcast owns Acting 101. So may potentially need to rename the show.
What do you want to
That's
call
cool.
it?
I've been thinking about it. I don't know. We'll have a chat in Discord. See if there's anything that you guys think is fitting.
Yeah.
I'll also see if that, because that podcast seems to be invalid. Like I might just need to like contact the services about it. But that's why it's not on audio platforms yet.
Yeah.
But I do intend for
Right.
it to be. It just isn't right now. And thanks for hanging out this episode, everybody. We will see you at the the last Friday of every month. Hopefully Erica will be here, and maybe we'll get Ben to LA and we'll do a movie commentary of Hereditary. What a choice of film.
That's such a good film to do that on.
I hope we hear gasping.
That'd be so great.
You know the part that everybody gasped at?
Yeah.
I assume it
It's
happened in your
gonna
theater.
it did.
And you hear a
And-
crescendo. Oh, it's so sick. Every time I've
What
seen
part?
Hereditary.
No, you're gonna have to wait, man. You're gonna have to
cannot
wait and
tell
see
you.
it because it is
Every time I've watched
oh.
it, my friends do this annual horror movie like festival just at someone's house where you get to submit, and people always submit Hereditary. And you'll hear people who haven't seen that movie one by one go, oh, it's so fucking good. What a film. It looks like you're Googling. If you Google the moment in Hereditary, I'll be really upset with you.
I'm not going to. Oh, what you mean, Ben?
Ben, it
Okay.
looked like he was looking
No,
something
I
up.
was turning my cat. There was noise. I was turning something off. I'm not going to Google it. I don't like being spoiled. Another thing about me is if you try and spoil something for me, I'd be really angry. So
There you go.
I love being shocked.
I love that for us. Let's do it. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.